Hi. Hey, Kingdon.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Not quite as ready as the recording feature. Just bear with me, please. Hopefully it works. I think the last time we did this, we found there was a bug. And it wasn't matching things up correctly, but I haven't fixed it yet. That's okay, though. This is the place for bugs. Anyone who's just joining the recording, welcome to the Flux Bug Scrub. Number 14. Okay. I think these are safe for cameras here. Oh, didn't like that. Something is in here. Oh, I didn't fix the link. Here we go. There is a line in here that I have to update. Number 14. Cool.
Is that a spreadsheet ID?
Yeah, that's the Google Sheet ID. And then there's these strings that match up with these strings. And it could totally be automated. It's just a step I haven't done. Bundle bug scrub 14.
Hi, Santucci. Santucci joined.
Hello.
Hey, Sunny. Hey, Kingdom.
How's it going?
It's going okay.
Okay, we got the data. Still missing my coffee, but looks like we can pretty much get started here. Does anyone want to drive the spreadsheet today? I can do it. Just have to figure out how to sort this again. Was that warning just to tell me that they took away the feature that lets me sort everything but the header column, or am I missing something here? I have to freeze this column row. Holy cow, they moved everything, didn't they? Here we go. Okay, and let's take these off the top, I guess. Unless there's anything in this range that anyone sees that we want to look at first. Something fresh that looks interesting. Otherwise, we're just going to filter everything with a stale age less than 1.5 today. Oh, that's not what I want either. Cool. And I actually need coffee because I made coffee and I don't have it yet. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's okay.
Probably would have gone a lot smoother if I had the coffee before I started the spreadsheet. So this is refactor PR for the Helm controller. I'm going to guess there's not much for us to do here.
It's a work in progress.
Work in progress. And let's look at things between, let's say, here and here, if we can. Looks like there's a lot of discussions in here.
What's the red circle for?
The red circle is just to like mark how far I think we can get. What does it say on the, oh, does everyone have the link, by the way? If you want to put your name in here, you can. You're already in here, Sonny. Here it is. Declare your intention to visit this issue. That's what it means. We can delete this one too. It's more useful for maybe for next week, because right now they're all in a line, but next week the stale ages will all have changed and we'll see any that we didn't get to. And maybe we'll decide to visit there or go some different place. Another refactor one. Probably work in progress.
Another work in progress, right?
Says almost finished. Image repositories. Oh. This one. Does anyone have maintainer access to or merge access to the image reflector controller?
Hi.
This one here, if you could give it a review, and actually I think it needs changes. Actually, it's already been reviewed. I have to come back and fix this. So this one is about some docs here. I think I said we're going to move some of this stuff into the image update tutorial and out of the API guide.
No, it's related to the AWS auto login thing, right? I remember this, right?
Yep.
I have to go through it once and I can approve and maybe much. Okay. Just docs, right?
It's just docs. Yep, there's a couple of small bug fixes and a few links to other references.
I can do it after this call, I guess.
Okay, cool. I think I still have changes I have to make to it based on Stefan's feedback, though. I'll ping you if you're still awake. What time is it there?
It's just 5:45 p.m. It's evening.
This is the early one. That's right. I'm gonna give it a medal and say. Okay, Flux 2 discussion. Use Open API schema with customize. Let's see. I'll close these out here.
Oh, there's a customized controller issue regarding this. I think Santoshi also tried to reproduce this, and this bug only appears in a real Kubernetes cluster on cloud, not in kind. Is that right, Santoshi?
Yeah, that's what the user said. Apparently, I have a GCP account, so I was hoping to like try it out there and see if it occurs, it happens there.
So I think the problem is Customize has some specific way of patching the manifest, and when you use that with Customize controller, it's showing some unexpected results.
Yeah, I'm just curious about what it could be. If it is, the way they are setting up the clusters in the cloud provider as well. I guess we'll see. Hopefully before tomorrow, I should get around to it.
It's possible that this specific use case requires you to provide the API spec of your cluster to build the manifest, right? It's possible that the cloud cluster has some issue in their API spec. Maybe something is different from what is in a kind cluster, and that's
Yeah.
causing this to fail.
Yeah, we'll see. That will mean the issue is not in Flux, but we'll just confirm.
Cool. Okay, is there anything we should do about this now, or just
Nothing, we just have to try it ourselves and mark it as confirmed.
sounds good? What is the recommended way to run integration tests after deployment? I don't know if I would do that. I'm not sure I have a better answer. Anyone have any feedback for this person, or any ideas about what question they have here? So
I'm not sure. Can you explain like what integration tests?
it looks like they are trying to run integration tests, and they have maybe Jenkins running a pipeline on, and I'm assuming it's running on Kubernetes. So in the Jenkins and Flux guide, we tell people build your images in Jenkins and push them, and then let Flux pull them into the cluster. And this person wants to know, well, how do I run integration and stress tests? And off the top of my head, I want to tell them use Flagger and use a canary. And there's a feature in Flagger tester, I think. That can work with Helm, or here we go. This is probably a good doc to send them. And you can use any of various kinds of tests, but basically boiling down to, I'm not sure why the docs say BATS tests. I think it can be any bash script. See, like this.
BATS test usually consists of bash scripts, right?
Yep. Maybe just for a suggestion about how to keep things orderly and keep the output reasonable. So I'm thinking I should just post this link for this person and elaborate it. I'll come back to this tab and follow up later. Git repositories authentication errors could be improved. Did anyone hit the SSH key issue that we did a release for yesterday? The SHA-1 deprecation at GitHub? I
did not try it.
I did not hit that issue. And I have clusters that are going, and I don't think I've done anything different than the usual default workflow. So from my understanding, the SHA-1, it's a SHA-1 SSH key. I don't really know if it's the key itself or is it the fingerprint that's the SHA-1. But anyway, it's deprecated, and I don't know if it's deprecated only for new keys. So people who try Bootstrap now on a fresh cluster or without an SSH key in the cluster will get this issue. But I didn't hit it on my running cluster, so it didn't. Hopefully, it didn't take people's clusters down, or I mean, it wouldn't have taken them down and just stopped them from syncing.
This issue seems to be something different.
Yeah, it's different, but it's related. This is where that error would have come from. So let's see, reconciler error, unable to clone, repo address, error, authentication required. Authentication failed. So there's some change in the pipeline. I haven't read all these details yet. Do you understand this issue already, or?
Not completely, but sounds like something that, as per Hiday's comments, like the error is coming from the underlying libraries. We don't have much control over it.
Okay.
We did some refactoring last week of the whole Git packages, and maybe that would help.
I'm going to give this a label. There's a question label. It says we're waiting for follow-up, I think.
Mhm.
Does that seem accurate?
Mhm. The last
Yeah,
comment is
that's
about
good.
the person
Mhm.
updating.
Cool. Update testimonials. Yeah, so Daniel's suggesting that we should be able to get these groups that presented with us at our conference to put some form of endorsement on the landing page. Since they're building a product based on Flux, I think that's entirely reasonable. Anything to add?
I don't think we can do anything at the moment.
Yeah. We really have to wait for them to make the endorsement. Hopefully they'll be interested in that. Why does the image policy marker need to contain policy namespace? That's a good question. So I have a question for the group. Does anyone know about the changes that made more cross namespace things possible? I think the only thing that's changed recently is in the image repository or in the somewhere in one of the resources, there's a new cross namespace reference thing that says these are the namespaces that are allowed to access this resource. And I think it was image repository, but I don't know if that means that you don't have to keep all of these resources in the same namespace anymore. That's been the case for as long as I remember. We've always told people you have to keep the Git repository, the image update automation, the image repository, and the image policy all in the same namespace, or it won't work. So namespace of the Kubernetes resource containing the image policy marker. That sounds reasonable, but I don't think it would work most of the time. That's what I'm thinking, because I'm advising people to keep their image update resources in the Flux system namespace usually, unless they have a multi-tenant concern and they need them to be where the tenant is. But I know we have like an issue where, for example, there's the spec'd up path in image update automation that doesn't know what path it comes from. I'm not sure that would be the same problem, because you can read the resource and tell what namespace it has on it. I just don't know if that would be a lot of new code. or if it would benefit really that much, or just make things more confusing. I'm going to give that a think and come back to it maybe. If nobody has anything to add to that right now.
I have not used it much, so I cannot think much about it. Need to spend some more time.
Sorry, I'm just moving on to the next one, unless there's any questions or anything about that one. Running Flux in cluster A and deploying artifacts into cluster B. This nodeless cluster is serving as a control plane for controllers which only work on their own CRDs. So no pods should be scheduled there. Well, that's neat. You need to point all the necessary Flux controllers to use the nodeless cluster on top. Okay, well, it looks like this one's already answered. Does anyone have a question about how you can use a remote cluster?
What is a nodeless cluster?
A nodeless cluster, I think, is something like Fargate cluster,
Oh,
where you pay a premium for the pods because they run as a Fargate workload. So they cost a little bit more than they would if they were on a cluster for resources, based on resources that are just EC2 nodes or a node pool that was actually fully utilized, I guess. But on the balance, they tend to be cheaper unless they're full-time workloads that are persistent forever. Whoa, hold on.
There's one entry. Time to start.
I think I better turn that thing off, or at least turn it down. That's really annoying. I noticed it from across the house earlier. Oh, it's time to start your workday.
What device is that?
That's a Google Home. There's different Google, there's Google Nests and Google, there was one in between. This is the oldest one. I have 3 of them in the house, so no matter where you are, Google's listening.
Okay, let's go.
It's nice for playing music on, mostly.
so the issue is just about controlling Flux from a different cluster, and the answer is store crypt config in a secret and target it to a different cluster.
Yep, I think that's pretty much the size of it. And if you're using like a cluster API or something, then it's already storing cube configs and secrets. So you can just point to an existing secret. So I guess this one. So let's go meta now here, because there's at least 2 bugs we're aware of on the bug scrub itself. And we're about halfway through the time for today. I'm going to open an issue on my private repo here because this is answered, and I'm not sure that it was marked as answered. So it is. This one is marked as answered. All right, so we want to filter out answered ones, that would probably be a nice default. So we can just filter them out now. Oops. Okay. Not ideal histogram bucket for duration histogram. Cool.
I think I saw something similar in the package repository. Someone created a PR to change something related to this, I guess.
You think we can find it if there's not that many open? Maybe it's
There
already
are not many.
this one, maybe.
The third one, that one. Oh, it's the same person, right? Looks like it's an ongoing thing.
So did we, yeah, let's just link back to it from here then. Said it is the same person, yeah. Has anyone used the monitoring guide before? I started to look at this last week.
I installed it in my home Kubernetes cluster. And I was going through the Flux, these things. And it made me feel like, why do you need a separate UI? This should be enough for Flux.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice stuff in here. And I think that's one of the sentiments I've heard expressed a lot, is that we have a UI and it's in Grafana. It's nice. It gives you a lot of information, but maybe not all the information that you're looking for.
Like, people want UI to control things. That's opposite of GitHub's, right?
Right. Yeah. And this, I mean, this is what I think most people are looking for, is right here, this part. Tell me what's ready and what's not ready at a glance. Maybe one thing that's missing from this is, I haven't used it in Anger, so I'm not really sure, but if you mouse over these things, you don't get any kind of status or further details about why they're not ready, right? So that, I don't know if that's something that would even be possible in Grafana, but that would be cool. But it seems like overkill to create an entire UI product just for that. When we have all this nice data here. Yeah, I've started to use this a little bit more. I'm not sure what it was that came up, but something. Probably someone was reporting that memory issue that we fixed in 0.20.
Right.
with
Git related, the source controller related,
the
or
image.
Git related.
Yeah, and it was things just weren't being freed, I guess, that there was a PR that said enforce the contract or something like that.
Right. The libgit to C memory allocations were not being
Yeah,
freed.
that makes sense. Anyway, I wasn't able to reproduce the issue myself. I had a bunch of image update automations, and they seemed fine to me. But I guess that bug did get fixed for the people that were reporting it. Anyway, that's cool.
When you test, do you have like many repositories running or syncing in your cluster?
Probably not enough to hit whatever issues. I usually have a few Git repositories that point to the same actual underlying repository, and one is in read-write mode, and I have one other Git repository that I have sort of nested, but not as a submodule. I'm not using the include feature though. Maybe I should use that. The one that sort of behaves like submodules, but without all the baggage of submodules.
One issue with the Helm repository controller we were discussing about was there is no counter in how many threads, how many Go routines you can create. So if you have like 50 repositories registered, you create 50 Go routines and it'll take a lot of memory and your pod can be killed.
Mhm.
So Hide is working on adding some limits, like you can only start 5 Go routines at a time. So that will help us avoid high memory usage issues.
Great.
That will come soon, maybe next week.
Awesome. That's really helpful information, and I think that's one of the reasons why we like to have this kind of event, get to hear that kind of stuff. I'm not really in the thick of it as much as you are, so I was unaware of that.
That's part of the refactoring that's going on in source controller.
Neat.
But
I just said neat.
no. But we have been seeing some weird memory issues in the Helm controller, and we don't have answers to it for it. Like there was not much change in Helm controller itself, but suspect is it's some dependency that has been causing this. It could be controller runtime or upstream Helm itself. In the recent weeks, we have seen a lot of reports that Helm controller is taking more than 1 GB of memory. You've seen that, right? Those issues, people posting some graphs.
Yeah, I've seen a few issues reported from people who upgraded past a large number of versions too, that they didn't change anything else, and they found and they submitted their monitoring dashboards and showed, look how much the memory usage went up. It was stable at like super low number, and here it is, it's like 10 times as much, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was a lot more. So hopefully those things can be addressed somehow. I don't know if it's because it's doing more or.
Suspect it's coming from Helm upstream library itself.
Yeah, that would make sense. So it's not clear how to reduce dependencies do not meet ready condition when there is a complex dependency graph. I saw something that Chanwit posted in a Slack thread that looked really neat. but not directly related to this, but sort of aimed in the same general direction, where he put prefixes on each customization, like a number and a purpose tag. Like some of them were tagged for infrastructure, so they had INFR, and some of them were tagged for applications, so they said APPS, apps, and then there was a number in front, which I assume was supposed to give you an indication of like what order they would be applied in, and help set the sort order. So when you do your Flux get customizations, you would see them in a fairly reasonable order. I'm not sure if that's related to what this person's asking here. And so probability, oh, of hitting at the same time. I see this all the time. Maybe not all the time, because I've set my sync intervals fairly high and I have webhooks. But this is exactly what I did too. So place the interval on prime numbers to reduce the chance that as they sync over and over again, they're going to hit at the same time. That I thought that was clever too. Maybe a related issue. I don't know if you've seen this reported a lot, but the Helm chart not ready issue, when the Helm release reconciles and the Helm chart isn't ready. I wonder if there's something that can be done in our conditions refactoring to make that better, so that you don't get an error. It just waits for up to a period of timeout, and then if it isn't ready by that point, then you get an error. Do you know the issue that I'm talking about?
I think I have heard about this. And when I talked to Hidde, he was...
Helm repositories that are large, I think, is really where the issue comes from. Since otherwise it'll finish syncing fairly quickly and you probably won't even see this error. Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is just the repository, right? Not the release.
The release errors though, because the chart isn't ready when it tries to sync.
And then once the chart is ready, release doesn't try to reconcile again.
It does. It's fine. It's just people notice the error and they don't necessarily wait to see if it resolves. It would be nice if it wasn't expressed as an error when there was progress being made towards the thing that it's waiting for.
This behavior sounds similar to something I've been noticing. So once in a while, I'll get a notification that a Git clone failed. So it'll be on my Slack with the red colors.
Yep.
And when I go and check, it's already resolved. But I don't have any notification in my Slack saying it's been resolved.
Yep. That's pretty much the issue. That's what I'm talking about right there, because people, they go to the trouble of setting up the Slack notifications and they pay attention to them, and then they get this red herring that they go and look for a problem and waste a little bit of time on that.
Like, we need some way to tell them like it got resolved, it happened, but it's resolved now. We don't have to look into it again.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking it would be nice if there was a deeper status integration with the Slack messages, like what you get when you have a Git pull request that's open and that it has 5 or 6 status checks, and the Slack
and they change color based on
updates as they progress and finish. That would be maybe something for a future to think about.
Or something like checking the status of the Helm chart, like if it's progressing maybe if it's not stuck, like maybe return a different message. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that okay? Okay.
That would be great.
But in that case, I think Slack would need access to your cluster, right? To do any of those checks.
No, I don't think so. Would it? I think that, well, I don't know what the data structure is in Slack, so I don't think I know enough to say that you're wrong, but
Sorry, Sonia, I didn't hear what you asked.
Huh?
I didn't hear what you asked. Like,
Oh,
I didn't
so
hear the question.
I was saying if the status that's posted on Slack should get updated automatically as the cluster state changes, Slack will need access to your cluster to go and check what's happening, what's the current status. But in our
I
case,
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
it's-
Continue.
I think actually the message has like an ID that can be stable and
you can
then
update.
you can update it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was not aware of that. If that's there, then I guess we can do it that way. Just update an existing alert. I have to look into notification controller. I haven't read the code.
Yeah, I don't think it updates messages like at this moment. What it might update is like if you have a Git commit status, if there's an existing like commit status for a commit, it could update that. But for messages, I think it just pushes to new ones. Like is basically when it receives an event from from in this case the Helm controller, it just forwards it out to Slack. But in the case of like Git providers, like Git repositories, it has like a commit that is posting a particular commit that the message is associated with, so it can like update the commit status. But for messages, it just keeps sending them out without updating. Yeah,
Yeah, you need like a stable ID. I see what you're saying. So
yeah.
like
So-
when solution like Sentry or something that handles web requests and it tries to bucket errors together so you can see all of the like if you have an exception that's raised 3 microservices away from where the request actually came in, you can see that it's associated with this request because every message passes along an ID that gets generated at the edge where the request actually comes in. So you have a stable ID for the whole request because everything passes that through. But you would need something like a stable ID for maybe for the
Yeah.
reconcile event that started based on a commit ID or
Yeah,
based on a
I
time.
think it doesn't keep the IDs, so
Yeah.
it just sends it out. The only thing I think we could do differently is that maybe don't make it an error. So it's more of like an info event, like the Helm chart is like progressing, and just something like this. Then send another if maybe it hits an error or if it's done, so that person knows not to worry. Or some people filter the messages by like errors. So by like they only want to get errors. So for people that only want to get notifications for errors, they probably won't get that one because it's just an info, like maybe just log it's like the Helm chart is progressing kind of stuff.
Regarding this error filtering, I was wondering if it would be helpful if we provide kind of a snippet of how to ignore like git clone errors or notifications. When there is a update in a repository, I get a notification in my Slack that there was an update. So I didn't find any example of how to ignore that, and I had to experiment on my own to figure that out. So I got it eventually, but I think it would be helpful if you provide a list of regular expressions to people. Like you can try these regular
Or-
expressions to ignore
Yeah, I
these
guess.
things.
Yeah, there are some errors that people are like normally complaining about. Like they're always getting these updates and it's not useful to them. Maybe we could look around for like issues and people complaining on Slack and yeah, create a list of like the regex that you could use to. But yeah, I think that's a good one.
In the docs, we can have a section. Kingdom, should we do that?
I'm sorry, I was only half paying attention. Had a section of the docs about what now? About how to make,
Some set of regular expressions that are useful for ignoring various notifications.
that's a good idea.
Instead of like people trying to figure out, these are ready-made expressions you can use and they work.
Rather than you write a regular expression that sort of works some of the time, or maybe doesn't work at all, and only find out when you still get the message that you tried to ignore.
Create an issue about it somewhere to track it. Should it be in Flux? Okay,
Notification controller.
It's more about docs.
Is
It
that where
should
the
be.
guide lives?
Yeah, there are a bunch of docs in the notification
there
report.
is.
So we could add it in.
These are API docs, generated docs.
Yeah, I know that we have some docs that are pulled in from external sources. And I wasn't sure if the notification guide lived in the.
Yeah, there's you can go back to the repo. There are some docs there, like the notification controller repo. So, probably let me see. This is more of the design. Maybe check internal. Yeah.
In spec, there is some example I see under spec. Go down.
Yeah, okay. You can enter this V1. Oh, but that's more of each
Down there's
API version. Oh yeah, there are some examples here. Oh yeah, this is not a bad place to add again.
So where does this surface in the actual website docs here? Maybe if I search for events dispatching, I'll find it.
So there is an alert.md file which has this exact thing, I think, which you're looking for. Under v1 beta 1 directory, up. Yeah, v1 beta 1, alert.md. Scroll down. If this is added to the website, we can add an example of that section here. Or is this just the docs, like developer docs?
I think this is on the website.
Yeah, this is the doc.
This should be on the website.
Yeah, so if we want to add it here, then it should go to the website, I think. This is a good, right, that looks like a reasonable place to find. So this is where the regex goes, I think, so probably that would be good information to put in the issue.
Yeah.
I'm just going to paste these links in here so I don't lose them, and then I'll follow up later with some text.
We can like categorize the types of messages we receive and provide some regular expressions for those. One is like there is a new update for a Git repository. This could be clone fail, but that's kind of important. You don't want to ignore it.
Yeah, it's hard to just say make a regex and ignore it, because if it comes up a bunch of times, I would really like to ignore the first time and maybe even the second time. That's
Do we have such count, like alert event counting logic in notification controller? Like if you receive some event 5 times, it will start rate limiting. Is there something like that, Saptachi?
Sorry, I missed what you said.
Oh, in notification control, do we have some logic where if one event comes 5 times, you start ignoring it, rate limiting it? Is there such a thing?
No, the rate limiting most times comes from the other controllers when like they've requeued a couple of times, and then they start to back off automatically. So the notification controller does not contain that logic.
It's just forwarding whatever it receives.
Yeah, it just forwards whatever it's yeah. I think the only thing I think that is rate limited is like the events, like endpoints where it's receiving the events. If you're sending like way too many, it might limit that, but that's not the same thing because like it doesn't check for particular events. It's just like anything that's coming there, like if the events are too much, it sort of limits it, but not, it doesn't limit like particular messages or errors that is receiving. Yeah, but I feel this, like the comment about ignoring the message is sort of like different from like updating the docs.
Yeah, they're two different issues for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just I'll follow up. I'm going to close tabs after this meeting. And
Okay.
actually,
Okay.
we're at the time, so thanks for joining.
Before we end, another category of notifications are from the image automation controller. I see people complaining about that answer. For every reconciliation, it posts an event, I think.
Yeah,
image automation.
I think that's the one that still does have that problem where you get the notification even when nothing happens. I'll check and see if we already have an event open for that. Cool. All right. Well, thanks both of you for joining us. And
thanks for organizing.
Yeah, great. This
thanks, Kingdom.
Hope to see you next time.
Yeah, sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.